Welcome, everyone, and thank you for attending our press conference, Indigenous Women from the Amazon, Calls for Urgent Action. My name is Osprey Oriole Lake, and I'm the Executive Director of the Women's Earth and Climate Action Network, and we work with women from different regions of the world on the front lines of the climate crisis. One of the key focuses of our WECAN delegation here at COP27 is calling urgent attention to the Amazon rainforest that is in dire crisis, and to show our solidarity with Indigenous peoples who are fighting to protect and defend the Amazon and their communities. We're very honored to have here women from across the Amazon region to speak to us. We're first going to hear from Helena Gualinga. She is Kichwa. She's an Indigenous youth climate leader from Sarayaku in Ecuador. We will then be hearing from Sonia Guajajara, who is an Indigenous leader from Brazil, and we have to congratulate her because she has now become the federal deputy at the National Congress of Brazil, just winning her elections recently. Woohoo! And we will then be hearing from Thaili Terena of the Indigenous, who's an Indigenous rights activist, and we're very honored to have her be our WECAN coordinator in Brazil. And then we will be hearing from Patricia Gualinga, who is also Kichwa. She's a spokeswoman from Mujeres Amazónicas Defensorías de la Sarayaku, and she is also from Ecuador. Throughout the Amazon region, Indigenous peoples are under increasing attack, with devastating assaults on social and environmental protections and direct attacks on Indigenous peoples. And as threats increase, women land defenders are harmed first and worse due to oppressive patriarchal social constructs. This is a critical time to stand with courageous Indigenous women leaders, such as these who are here with us today, fighting every day to protect Indigenous rights, the Amazon, the climate, and in fact, fighting for their very lives. We know there is no solution to lessening the devastating impacts of the climate crisis without forests. And study after study shows that Indigenous peoples are the best custodians of forests that they have maintained for a millennium in their territories. Due to hundreds of years of oppressive colonization and current neoliberal economic systems, we see massive forest destruction from fossil fuel and mining extraction. We also see purposeful fires being lit with impunity in the Amazon for agribusiness development. All of this dangerous developments are driving the climate crisis and hurting Indigenous communities. We as the international community must stand with Indigenous peoples in solidarity and resistance to demand that governments and financial institutions respect fundamental human rights standards and protect the Amazon's ecological integrity. We are here to say loud and clear, not one more drop of Indigenous blood, and that the Amazon is not for sale. We do not want carbon offsets or the commodification of the Amazon or any other forests. We do not accept the market mechanisms in Article 6 of the Rulebook for the Paris Climate Agreement that further harms Indigenous peoples, their rights, and territories. It is far past time for governments to listen to Indigenous women's leadership and to respect their knowledge and their rights. Specifically at WECAN, we are working with Indigenous women across the Amazonian region to implement the Escazú Agreement in order to protect the Amazon and defend the forest defenders. And we're going to be having a special workshop on Thursday about the Escazú Agreement and how important that is to particularly Indigenous women in their land defense so that they can be protected as they stand up for their territories. So please join us in our Escazú campaign to protect land defenders. And now let us listen to the calls to action from these women who have traveled so far to protect their homelands. And with that, I hand the floor to you, Helena.
Hello everyone, my name is Helena Gualinga. I come from the indigenous community of Sarayaku in the Ecuadorian Amazon. I want to start off with addressing the extreme wave of violence that women have been facing, not just in the Amazon, but across the world. And how women all over the world right now are fighting for their basic human rights to protest, their basic human rights to decide over our own bodies. And in the Amazon, we're fighting for the protection of our land, which we also consider our body. When we talk about women and we talk about land, we're talking about the same thing. We're talking about giving consent. We're talking about giving consent to our own bodies as women. But also when it comes to our land, we need to give our consent if someone is going to enter our territory. And that has not been given in so many cases across the Amazon. And this is why these violations are happening to women and to indigenous people in the Amazon. And this has, the violations that are happening in the Amazon and to indigenous people are mostly affecting indigenous women. The waves of violence that come with extractivism, that comes with oil companies and mining companies, it's targeting women specifically. The increase of sexual violence, the increase of the social injustices that affect women are exacerbated when these industries come in. And this leads us to another point, which is the threats that women also receive when we stand up against extractive industries. You will be hearing from the women that are sitting next to me of their experiences when it comes to being land defenders as women. And the role and the importance of indigenous women being the custodians of forest, because most of the land in the Amazon and across the world is actually taken care by women, because women work the land. Women are the ones that, if indigenous people are the custodians of most untouched forests around the world, most of those territories are actually protected by women. So if we protect women, we're also protecting these territories. And in the next years, we know that when it comes to climate change and climate change mitigation, one key point in this is to protect ecosystems that are already protected and alive. And that needs to be a priority if we're going to fight climate change. And to be able to do so, we need to protect the people that are doing so. All these women that are sitting next to me have put their bodies on the line to protect the Amazon rainforest, to protect the lands. And we're talking about very, very small populations, like my own community. We're 1,200 people in the community, but we're protecting 144,000 hectares of land. And if that small population is affected, we're losing 144,000 hectares of land. And indigenous people make up 5% of the world's population, but we are protecting 80% of the world's biodiversity, if not more. And we're protecting most of the forests all over the world. And it's really, for me as a young woman, it's really amazing to be able to sit next to leaders like Patricia, like Sonia, like Taily, and also to see the leaderships that are emerging from the Amazon and taking and getting into decision making. And I believe that if we see more of that, because there's gonna come a wave of young women that will take power, that will get into decision making, we will see a different future for the Amazon. And that's what my generation is looking for, that's what we're striving for, and that's what we'll keep pushing for, to see more indigenous women, more indigenous women leaders in position of power that will change the route of the Amazon. Thank you.
Woo, thank you. So we wanted to start the panel with hearing from our youth. And thank you so much, Helena, for all the work that you're doing and really bringing the voice of the youth. And as you said, the young women leaders coming up are so important to all of us. And also making the link between the violence against the earth and the violence against women, and how in our patriarchal societies this has got to be changed. We have to stand up to it and we have to heal it. So thank you for bringing that forward. And with that, we would like to hear from Sonia Guajajara. You have the floor, Sonia. Thank you.
Olá, boa tarde. Eu sou a Sônia Guajajara, eu sou liderança indígena no Brasil e agora deputada federal eleita pelo estado de São Paulo.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Sonia Guajajara. I am not only an indigenous leader from Brazil, but I'm currently a federal deputy who has been elected in the state of São Paulo in Brazil.
E como parlamentar, é urgente uma articulação no Congresso Nacional que retire todos os projetos de leis, todas as medidas que tramitam no Congresso Nacional que retrocede direitos indígenas, direitos ambientais.
And as a woman in Congress, I'd like to say that it's urgent that we withdraw all of the laws that have been implemented in the past few years that are setting us back in time when it comes to the defending of our territories.
O projeto de lei 191, que autoriza a mineração nos territórios indígenas,
The law project 2001 that authorizes the mining activity within indigenous territory.
o projeto de lei 490, que inviabiliza todo e qualquer processo de demarcação dos territórios indígenas,
The law project 490 that allows for the withdrawal of all indigenous territory demarcation.
o projeto de lei 2633, que premia invasores de terras públicas,
The law project 2633, which rewards those who are invading our territories.
o projeto de lei 177 de 2021, que pauta a retirada do Brasil como signatário da Convenção 69 da OIT.
And the law project 121, which withdraws Brazil from the board of environmental laws that have been established.
Todas essas medidas, se aprovadas, impactam diretamente a vida das mulheres.
All of these measures, once applied, they have direct effects upon indigenous women's lives.
No cenário internacional, o Parlamento Europeu está tentando aprovar agora a lei anti-desmatamento.
In the international spectrum, now the European Parliament is trying to approve a law project anti-deforestation.
E não está considerando todas as diversidades dos biomas existentes no Brasil.
Without taking into consideration all of the diversity existing amidst all of the biomes within Brazil.
Esta lei se refere a garantir a rastreabilidade de commodities e impedir o desmatamento no Brasil.
This law intends to create traceability to all commodities, as well as to stop the profiting of the deforestation of Brazil.
Mas considera somente o que se refere a florestas como agricultura.
But it only takes into account the rainforest that is taken over by agriculture.
É importante se garantir a proteção de todos os biomas, como Amazônia, Cerrado, Mata Atlântica, Pantanal.
It is important that we secure the protection of all Brazil's biomes, like Amazon, the wetland, the grasslands, the Atlantic rainforest, and Pantanal.
Que igualmente estão ameaçados. E somente a proteção de todos esses biomas é que vai garantir o equilíbrio climático.
Those biomes are equally under threat, and only by protecting all of these territories, we can guarantee the balance of our ecosystems.
E somente protegendo todos os biomas, os mercados consumidores estarão tomando né, fazendo as ações para uma cadeia livre de desmatamento e de sangue indígena.
And by protecting all of the biomes, we will be implementing a supply chain that is free of not only deforestation, but indigenous assassination.
É preciso garantir a participação das mulheres e da juventude nos espaços de decisão.
It is important to secure the participation of women and indigenous women in decision-making spaces.
Aqui no âmbito da COP, a presença e a participação das mulheres ainda é muito invisibilizada.
Within the context of COP, the presence and participation of women is still very much undermined.
E se nós indígenas, povos indígenas, comunidades tradicionais, estamos apresentando a maior parte da proteção da biodiversidade, nós precisamos estar também, nós precisamos estar sendo apresentados também como parte da solução.
And if we, as indigenous people, are providing the protection of the majority of the planet's biodiversity, we also need to be looked upon as a part of the solution.
Sangue indígena, nenhuma gota mais.
Indigenous blood, not a single drop more.
Thank you so much, Sonia. And I remember earlier in the year when Sonia let me know that one of the main strategies of the women in Brazil was to run for office and take over the government. And it gives me chills because she's done it. Another woman, also indigenous woman, won in Brazil. And the power of the indigenous women rising and going into the government and taking their land back, taking the governance structures back, is an incredible inspiration to all of us. Thank you so much for that. And also just to say, as Sonia was mentioning about, who has space, here at the COP, last year, and I'm sure the figures will be the same this year, 74% of speaking time at the COP is men. 74%. That's got to change. So now let's go ahead and hear from Thaili Terena, also from Brazil. Taily, you have the floor.
Thank you, Osprey, and thank you, everyone. I would like to say thank you for the space that my sisters from the Amazon opened for me. I'm here on behalf of my people, the Terena Nation, that is not in the Amazon, but is doing also a huge job to protect and preserve the two not well-known environment, the Cerrado and Pantanal, places that are known in Brazil for being the cradle of the waters. But these two environments do the arc of protection for the Amazon. So I think this is also I'm here today. Because if we want to save the Amazon, we need to have a bigger look what is near to the Amazon. If we want to save the planet, we need to understand the interconnection of those environments. Colonization divided us, create borders, and violate our lands and bodies. Indigenous women fell and suffered the most because we are in the front lines of the protection of our lands and the protection of our people. And because of this, we carry a huge responsibility, and we are also in the aim of these big exploitation companies. So in this important day here at COP, as Sonia said about the Gender Day, women are not having the space that they should have, especially regarding indigenous women. We had a lot of reports that already mentioned about the importance of the indigenous people's knowledge, but even that we have those materials, we are not having space to speak and share what we are doing on the ground. So I call for the women that are here today that are not indigenous but have also some space to share, to open space for other indigenous women. We need to hear what we have to say. Care is something that we care is something that we have on us. Women care with their people, their family, with their region, and I think we as indigenous women can add for this discussion because we have and keep a relationship with the environment that sadly not all of the women has. So I am here to say that stop dividing us in regions, stop dividing us in borders. If we really need if we really want to save the planet, we need all the women from all the regions to discuss and create plans for a better future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Taily, and we're really honored to have Taily be our coordinator in Brazil, where she's coordinating Indigenous women in different regions of the Amazon to, and also the Pantanal, as she mentioned, so that we create this unity that she's talking about by bringing the different women from the different regions together to actually demonstrate and do exactly what she's talking about. So thank you for that message of unity for the women, but also for the land itself. Thank you. And with that, I would like to give the floor to Patricia Gualinga. Thank you.
Buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Patricia Gualinga. Soy del pueblo originario Kichwa de Sarayaku en la Amazonía de Ecuador y soy miembro de un colectivo de mujeres amazónicas defensoras de la selva.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Patricia Gualinga from the Sarayaku community in the Ecuadorian Amazon. I'm part of a women's collective called Mujeres Amazónicas, Defenders of the Amazon.
Para nadie es desconocido la destrucción que se ejerce en la Amazonía y la violación de los derechos de los pueblos indígenas y la lucha de los pueblos indígenas y de las mujeres ante esta situación.
The destruction of the Amazon is not unknown, and the human right violations that are committed towards women and indigenous people.
Ante esta gravedad, las mujeres hemos empezado a alzar nuestra voz de protesta. Hemos empezado a decirles que a nuestro territorio no van a ingresar ninguna actividad extractiva. Les mandamos un mensaje claro a las industrias extractivas y a los gobiernos. No les vamos a dejar ingresar. No hagan un mal negocio si quieren ingresar a nuestros territorios, porque ahí vamos a estar luchando. Todas las mujeres y todas las jóvenes, todos vamos a estar, porque estamos luchando por la vida.
And we are raising our voices and we are saying no to any extractive activity in our territories. We have sent a very, very clear message that we do not want any type of exploitation in our territories. And we're also telling you it's bad business, because if you come into our territories, we will fight. The young women and the women, we will fight and we will stand up against you.
No podemos continuar en esta senda de destrucción. Es tiempo que los que están negociando allá tomen acciones ya. No podemos seguir hablando de todas las violaciones que nos han hecho, porque es tiempo de acción desde los lugares que estemos, ya que nosotras como mujeres mandamos este mensaje, pero también somos criminalizadas y muchas veces amenazadas de muerte.
We are telling them that they cannot continue destroying. Those inside there, it's time to act, but we cannot continue telling our stories over and over again, because the time for action is now. And the women that have been defending these lands, we've also been criminalized and threatened because of our work.
Exigimos el respeto total de nuestras selvas, de aquellos biomas de vida que están en todo el mundo, no solamente en la Amazonía, sino que están en distintas partes, en el África, en Borneo, en Brasil, en todo lado. Exigimos que se respete todos estos biomas tan importantes para la humanidad.
And we're demanding the most and fullest respect for our forests and our biomes that are so important and that are not only in the Amazon, they're in Africa, they're in Borneo, and we need to make sure that they respect it.
Nosotros no es que no tengamos propuestas, tenemos propuestas, visiones que pueden aportar a un mundo más justo. Nuestra propuesta, la de Sarayaku específicamente, se llama Selva Viviente y es una propuesta que puede encajar a nivel global y a tomar decisiones adecuadas.
And it's not that we don't come with ideas and proposals. We do have proposals. In particular, for Sarayaku, we have a proposal called the Kausaksacha, which means the living forest, which we know will contribute to the global conversations and negotiations.
Pero para entender esta propuesta hay que romper todos los paradigmas existentes en nuestro cerebro y estar dispuestos a escuchar la visión de los pueblos indígenas, el conocimiento que puede venir a ser un aporte fundamental en estas discusiones. Si no escuchan nuestras voces, si no nos incluyen en sus discusiones, todas estas cumbres serán un fracaso.
But to able to understand this, you need to break the paradigms that you've learned. You need to break the ideas that you have learned. And you need to be able to listen to the vital knowledge that indigenous people bring to the table, because if you do not, all the negotiations and all the work that you're doing will be in vain.
Ya no más este sistema que es obsoleto. Es urgente un cambio, es urgente acciones y nosotros apostamos por la vida y contribuimos con vida. Ese es nuestro mensaje. Muchísimas gracias.
We can no longer continue with this system that is destroying. And our proposal is life. Our proposal, what we're proposing is to maintain life. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, everyone. And can you imagine if we hand over the entire Amazon region and the Pantanal to these women, what would happen? Would be beautiful and magnificent, and that's what I want to see. We do have a chance for everyone to have like a 30-second closing comment. Let's just go down. Go ahead, Helena.
Well, thank you so much for the space, and thank you to all the women. I'm so honored to sit on with you. I think something that we need to bring up is the participation here at COP of women. It's almost in the negotiating rooms and the leaders, if we look at the leaders of these negotiating tables, there are no women, and we need more women. We need more women, and we need more indigenous women that can bring the vision of actually restoring and maintaining balance in nature. Because if we do not do that, as Patricia said, everything will be in vain. And we will not be able to stand up against the challenge that we have, which is to face the climate crisis. I will pass it on to Patricia. Thank you.
Do you want to have a closing comment, Sônia?
Quero agradecer mais uma vez aqui a Osprey, né, por este convite que anualmente nos traz aqui para sermos escutadas nesse espaço da COP.
So giving thanks once again to Osprey, who brings us here every year and gives us this space to be heard and to communicate our voices.
E especialmente nesse dia que se trata da questão de gênero, né, é muito importante para nós, né, estarmos aqui levando essa nossa mensagem para o mundo.
Especially today, which the topic within COP27 is gender, it is very important for us women to be here and to propagate our voices to the world.
É isso, muito obrigada.
That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Go ahead, Taily.
Okay, thank you. So thank you everyone for listening. I want just to remind about the idea of the borders that the colonizer created. Please break these barriers inside your mind, your spirit, and your body. Indigenous women are everywhere in the planet and have their own idea, thinking about the community, about the planet, and about the body. So thank you again. and get a chance to know these ideas that are being doing in the ground. So yeah, thank you.
And we'll give the last word to Patty, just a few seconds.
Es tiempo de unidad y tiempo de acciones. Les invito a hombres, mujeres, niños a tomar acciones concretas desde nuestros sitios. Todos invitados.
It's time for unity and it's time for action. So I invite everyone, from children to teenagers to adults, to work together.
Not one more drop of indigenous blood. The Amazon is not for sale. Not one more drop of indigenous blood. The Amazon is not for sale. Thank you all so much. Let's give them a big applause. Thank you. Gonna do a quick photo.